Mornings at 10.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. What do you think about euthanasia, assisted suicide, death with dignity, as the movement is called? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Probably coming to Illinois at some point, given the cultural Marxists in charge. Maine is poised to be the 8th state to legalize doctor-assisted suicide. The Maine legislature voting this week to legalize it, sending it to the governor's desk. The proposal had failed once in a statewide vote, at least 7 previous times in the legislature. But I tell you what, the Marxists are persistent. So they kept going, and they've got it through. Death with Dignity National Center, Death with Dignity Political Fund. Maine's bill would allow doctors to prescribe terminally ill people a fatal dose of medication. The bill declares that obtaining or administering life-ending medication is not suicide under state law, effectively legalizing it. Good idea? Individual autonomy, right? Well, consider the road that we're going down in Maine, potentially, if the governor signs it. I assume she will. Along with New Jersey and 6 other states. The Dutch, they've been at the forefront of this death with dignity movement. This case yesterday.
Oh, I know.
At the same time, Maine was moving the bill to the governor's desk. A teenager raped by 2 men when she was 14 years old, suffering from severe depression and PTSD from the attack.
And anorexia.
Mm-hmm. She was euthanized as a treatment for her anorexia and PTSD. Noah Pothoven, 17, this coming from news sources, legally euthanized in the Netherlands, saying the pain she was dealing with after a childhood rape was insufferable. She said in a social media post the day before her death last Sunday that she breathes but no longer lives. She actually had written an autobiography called Winning or Learning, which detailed her battles with post-traumatic stress, depression, and anorexia after being molested and raped as a young child.
Yeah, her first assault happened at 11, and then she was raped by those 2 men you mentioned when she was 14. And she hid that fact from her parents because she was ashamed, and then all that built up inside of her, and she stopped eating. She was anorexic for a while, and then that sad last post that she had, she announced that she would be dead within 10 days. Nobody stepped in to help her?
Oh, no, they helped her. They helped
17 years old.
They killed her. That's the help. That's what help.
That's how they help.
Has been redefined to be. I'm gonna help a 17-year-old kill herself to end her suffering.
And she said that on an Instagram post like last week, she said after many conversations and reviews, it had been decided that that's how she was going to leave this planet.
Sure. 17-year-olds who are understandably depressed and dealing with a traumatic attack in their life.
Well, it just bothers me because she says she was a mental illness warrior, and then she gave up.
Let's let them drive the train and help them kill themselves. 10 human suffering. That's compassionate.
It's barbaric.
This is why Flannery O'Connor said sentimentality leads to the gas chamber. This is what sentimentality is. Emotion rather than reason. And in fact, more specifically, emotion as the basis for morality. Emotion as the basis for morality. My predilections and desires expressed in public policy. In 2018, 6,126 deaths caused by assisted suicide in the Netherlands.
Oh, my God.
67 patients killed by psychiatrists and other doctors for mental illness. The statistics, as Wesley Smith points out, who's been one of the leading voices on this, he's been covering this for 25 years. We've had him on the show. You want chapter and verse on the gore and ghoulishness of the Death with Dignity movement, read Wesley Smith at First Things, National Review, elsewhere. 6,126 people killed by assisted suicide in the Netherlands last year. 67 killed by psychiatrists, other doctors for mental illness. The stats don't reveal, Wesley Smith reporting, how many of these were harvested for their organs afterwards, an ongoing feature of death euthanasia killings where the patient has good organs. 3 children between the ages of 12 and 17 were put down last year. This is 2018.
It sounds like you're going to put down your cat.
Isn't that how we're treating them? 205 cases of homicide by doctors as a supposed treatment for 2 or more elderly disorders, quote unquote, like hearing loss, balance issues, cognitive decline. In one case, you had a elderly woman with MS want to die with her elderly husband because if her husband died, he had cancer, there would be no one to take care of her, and she didn't want to be taken care of by strangers.
Well, too bad. Maybe you might get to know and like that stranger. But this is Noah is a beautiful young lady. She had so much more to live for. And she even wrote on her Instagram, please don't try and talk me out of this and spam me, whatever that means.
We used to have suicide helplines.
Right. Now we have assisted suicide lines.
Yeah, now we have
help, go to this
assisted
doctor.
suicide helplines. It used to be suicide helplines to prevent suicide. Now we have assisted suicide hotlines to help you kill yourself. That's a bit of a shift in the culture, wouldn't you say? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. In Canada, you know, the Canadian Constitution is interesting. It actually has, you'll be surprised to learn, a explicit protection of religious liberty. Guarantees freedom of conscience and religion. But the Supreme Court in Canada created a right to euthanasia. And after that, Ontario, the legislature there, passed a law requiring doctors to kill legally eligible patients who want to die or provide an effective referral if they have moral objections. Catholic and other religious doctors sued to enforce their charter constitutional liberties per Canada's constitution because they, of course, believe that referring is being complicit, and thus the law forces them to violate their beliefs and consciences. Well, the courts in Canada agreed that the religious rights of doctors who objected were indeed being infringed, but the right to equal and equitable access to legal and government-funded medical interventions trumped doctors' freedom of religion. You think that's any different than the position of the Democrat Socialists in this country and many Democrat Socialists on the bench? 8 states, well, if Maine, if the governor signs it, you'll have 8 states with laws that send us down this path. The same path that the path that the Netherlands has chosen, the path that Canada has chosen, and all in the name of eliminating human suffering. And of course, it's so persuasive, sentimental, as if there's no value from human suffering. Of course, there is if you have a faith tradition with a bit of understanding about the human condition. But even if you don't, here's the secular takeaway. How this works, and the case of the 17-year-old Dutch girl is a prime example. How this works is the way you eliminate human suffering is to eliminate the sufferer. That's what death with dignity means. That's translated. Is that what you want to do?
God, children as young as 12 can seek euthanasia under Dutch law. But 12 to 16, you have to get parental consent. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Well, that'll soon go away. I mean, how are we not doing the same thing here already? An 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, they can decide to mutilate themselves because a boy feels like a girl or a girl feels like a boy, and the parents endorse it. Kids are going to drive the train. They can mutilate themselves. They can kill themselves. And not only are we not going to stop them, we're going to help them.
Yeah. We'll drive them to their appointment. Why not?
Bob in Waukegan, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, this is all really asinine to me. I think that George Orwell's books should be taught in high school by somebody who doesn't get the same reading from them as Hillary Clinton. We need to take back the language. We need to start when they say they're pro-abortion. We need to tell them that they're baby killers, and come back at them with the harshest terms we can. Was it Orwell who said, "He who controls the language controls the people"?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening in America. We get all these lawyers to put flowery terms on everything and doublespeak, and there we sit, going down the tubes. I firmly believe, and I know you cannot prove this, but in America we've had 60 million abortions since it started in 1973. I totally believe the invasion on the southern border is God's way of saying, okay, you can't have your own kids, you're going to kill them. Well, I'll send you people who don't even care about your families, and that's why I believe the southern border is open. I know I can't prove that, and it's just a theory that I have, but it seems like it's working.
Okay, thanks for the call, Bob. Pete in Montgomery.
Morning, Dan. Morning, Amy.
Morning.
So, being a rational individual, I can think of times where it would be desirable for medically assisted suicide, where you have Alzheimer's and your personality is gone, who you are is gone, or brain cancers where
Terminal cancer.
who you are, where you are gone. But what I can't justify is the medically assisted part about it. The doctor's oath, first do no harm, takes precedent over that, and it creates a slippery slope that is unavoidable.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened in 1933 with Hitler, where he found doctors who were willing to euthanize mentally handicapped, physically handicapped people, and they were the ones who became the death camp commandants, because they would kill people without hesitation.
Sure, but
It is an unavoidable slippery slope.
Thanks for the call, Pete. But all you have to do, that's what we're in the business of doing. All you have to do is redefine things. It's easy. Just redefine things into existence and out of existence. So you redefine the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. Well, what we're talking about is help. It's not harm, it's help.
From 12 to 16, their brain's not even fully developed yet.
Says you.
To process, trauma and all of that.
Mike in Glenview.
Hey, Dan and Amy. Normally I'd have something snarky to say, but the circle of Satan is complete. I mean, whatever euphemism they're using now, abortion, will murder them before they're born, the minute after they're born, will murder them. Euthanasia will murder them when they're teenagers. Elderly assisted will murder them when they're old. It's psychotic, and it's got to stop. It's just murder. It's crazy.
Thanks for the call, Michael. That says the cultural Marxist position. Some people are defective, like people with disabilities. They're defective people. Those are the intellectual godfathers of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger, Alan Guttmacher. Defective people. Yeah, get rid of them. And people at the end of life, or at any point during the life where they have difficulty, they suffer from depression, PTSD, cognitive decline, whatever it is, they're melancholy. Well, they're becoming a burden. Out they go. People are liabilities that the state has to manage. Got to reduce some of our liabilities. That's the cultural Marxist way. And don't think this is, as I said again, and I'll repeat, faraway land. Oh, the Netherlands. What are the Dutch doing? The Canadians. Oh, the Canadians. 8 states on the precipice, with Maine being the 8th. And the holdings in courts of law, like in Canada, that are not terribly dissimilar from ours, should chill you. All of this should chill you. Will it?
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560.